All right, guys, Marco Palmero, founder of Ulysses. In this video, I want to break down the deal flow process for off-market origination so everybody knows why this is such an important thing to have as a system for everybody who is looking at buying more assets. So if you're a private equity professional, an investment professional, even a search fund, this is probably the most important video you ever watch. I'm not going to talk technicalities too much, but I'm going to start with the reason why you're not getting as much deal flow as you would want, how you can fix that, and then what are the immediate action steps that you can take to make sure that problem is addressed quickly. So let's start with the core issue. If you are not getting as much deal flow as you would want, or you're not getting the quality deals that you would want, the reason for that is actually quite simple. You're fishing in a pond that is basically too crowded. And that's an issue that a lot of people face. We have a ton of clients that come to us and say, well, I think my industry is capped, or I think I've looked at every possible deal available in this industry. All these sorts of objections or excuses, if we want to call them this way. And the reason why they have that type of objection or their type of behavior is because in most cases they're looking at on-market transactions. So they review deals that are brought to them by investment professionals, by bankers, by their network, and as a consequence, after some time, they feel like they've looked at everything that is available in any given marketplace. Well, in reality, research shows that they only tapped into probably 20% of the addressable marketplace. And I'm not the one saying this. Go online, check, reputable resources. There are Big Four accounting firms that publish reports on this, and many other firms. You can check that and you will find out that the data doesn't lie. Even big private equity groups think they are addressing the entire market and they're getting enough coverage. Well, in reality, they're only tapping in about 20% of it, which means 80% of that is left to their competition and to people that are smarter than they are, or they're willing to do and to put in more efforts to ultimately generate these additional opportunities that are going to create the returns that they need, or they're going to make them the money they want. So the first and most important issue that we want to understand is the fact that you are not tapping the entire market. That's the first unlock that people need to make peace with. The second is that the strategies that you're using are probably not conducive to more deal flow, because a lot of people, and you might be one of them, believe that the only way to find good deals is through their references, their introductions. And don't get me wrong, that's absolutely a good way for you to get more deal flow, but it's not enough. Long gone are the days where you just had a couple of connections, you had industry expertise, you had people that you met over a 30-year career, and you could rely on them to source deal flow. Things are a little bit different now, and of course, I'm referring to deals that are lower middle market. Of course, if we're talking about big corporate deals, probably access is limited to people that are in a restricted network, but that's not what we do. We source deals for private equity groups, investment professionals, and search funds that are lower middle market. So let's say sub 50 million, something like that. In this environment, the referral network and your references are not enough anymore, simply because they're not able to cover the entire marketplace, period. I don't care what you think. I don't care how much experience you think you have. I don't care how much experience you think your peers have. They cannot find all the opportunities that are available in the market. And even if they can, they cannot find them at the right time so that you can get preferential access to them. It might be the case for some of these deals, but not for all of them. And that's why you're leaving money on the table every single month, every single year, and probably the reason why you're watching this, because you want more deals. So you want to understand how you can integrate new strategies into your system so that you can get more deals, hit your goals, make more money, so on and so forth. So first two issues we identified. There's a gap in the market, so you're not addressing the entire market. Second, you're not using the right instruments, the right resources, the right channels to address that part of the market that I mentioned is untapped. But also, fundamentally, we are now in a world where we cannot rely purely on people that are ready to exit immediately. What do I mean by that? A lot of times I talk with professionals, even people that have been in the industry for 30 years, that say to me, well, we talk with this prospect that seems to be a very motivated seller, but then after a few conversations, it ended up being somebody that didn't want to move forward right away. He wanted to wait till the end of the year. So his exit window was probably 6-8 months. And that was not a motivated prospect for us. Well, I say, well, why is that? Well, because we're looking to deals that we can execute, right now. Totally fair statement, but you cannot rely purely on deals that are ready right now if you really want to create longevity and continuity into your business. And a lot of people just focus on their next deal, on their next kill. Fundamentally, they go out, they try to find a prey that they can hunt down, then they focus all their attention on that. Once that is done, they start the process all over again. That creates huge inconsistency in your business. And it might sound obvious for me to say this, but apparently it isn't, because I see a lot of folks that still do this. There's no predictable way for you to source deals. And that kind of goes toe to toe and hand in hand with the issue of relying on your referral networks, because these two things are very connected if you think about it. You just focus on one deal at a time, and you don't have a system in place to find more of these, which means you wait for somebody to bring you an opportunity, then you focus all your time on that, and as you finished it, then you start waiting again. And as you can see, there are a lot of dead times that ultimately kill your productivity and don't enable you to achieve the results that you want. And some people realize it, some people don't realize it, and they try to lie to themselves about the fact that they have a perfect system and a perfect infrastructure in place. Well, in reality, all they have is a very inefficient system that is relying on luck. That's the bottom line, because if you are relying on somebody else to bring you business, then you're fundamentally gambling every single day with your time, with your efforts, with your results at the end of the year. And what I usually say is that you're relinquishing control of your future to somebody else. And that's a very bad bet to make. It's almost like saying, I'm just going to open up a business and hope customers come in without marketing the product or service that I deliver. And business owners realize that a little bit. Not all of them, to be fair, but investment professionals still struggle with it sometimes because they feel they're operating in a completely different environment, while in reality, they're not. They're just a different type of business that needs to attract motivated sellers, in this case, that ultimately can be converted into deals. And as I said just a few minutes ago, we're now in an environment where there's not enough to just focus on the sellers that are ready right now, because there are people that are taking actions to build pipelines that start 6, 12, 18 months before, and ultimately create relationships that mature into deals that you're never going to access. And if back in the day you could have just focused on the hot leads that were coming in based on your reputation and trust, now that's not the case anymore. I don't care how good your firm is, how important your name is, that's not the case. We work with firms that have 50, 70, 100 employees, global footprints, and all of them are struggling with the same issue. The fact that they want more deal flow, they don't have infrastructure to create that deal flow because they never built that in the first place. They always relied on their own quote unquote kind of like expertise or their reputation to get them in. And now that the things are changing rapidly, the markets are evolving, competition is growing, they're kind of like on their back foot. So 3 core issues, as I mentioned, they're not addressing the entire market, relying on the wrong channels or just a few channels for your origination efforts. And ultimately, you're not fully understanding that the market has evolved and we need to be kind of like adapting to the change if we want to be successful at finding more deals. Now, let's talk solutions. How is it that we can face and solve these problems so that you can ultimately get more deal flow? Well, first of all, we got to understand that we're going to need to attract motivated sellers that are at different in different positions. So they are considering the sale of their business, and some of them might be ready immediately, some of them might be ready in 3 months, some of them might be ready in 6 months, some of them might be ready in 12 months. We need to first understand that we're gonna try to attract people that are in different categories, and therefore we need to have a structured system to communicate with them in different ways so that we can have them mature over time and ultimately convert them into deals. Now, how do we do that? Well, first of all, we need to go off market. And the reason why we want to go off market is to address the issue that I mentioned in the beginning. Instead of just focusing on the 20% of the market that you are already in, we want to tap into the 80% that is left. And that is, in most cases, is off market opportunities. So deals that are sourced directly with the seller or with the let's say advisory people, the people that advise the seller. So they might be their accountants or their lawyers, people that do their business, that work with them on a daily basis, and that basically are aware that the owner is considering an exit, but they haven't advertised the deal yet. So we want to connect with these types of people and make sure we establish a relationship so that we can ultimately convert these people into deals. Reason why we want to do that, again, 80% of the market that is untapped. Most people are not going to do this because it takes more effort, so they're going to be lazy about it and they're going to lose deals. Plus, this is a system that can be easily integrated into your existing business, which means you don't have to kill your referral network or the relationships that you have with parties that bring you deals on a regular basis. You can keep that active. It will still give you coverage, and it will probably bring you opportunities that are ready now, that are prepared, pre-packaged. Everything is beautiful. But you also want to create a system that originates deals for you and that gives you more control over your results, because ultimately you keep your partners in place. They bring you deals. That's something that you cannot really control because you cannot track how many of these deals are going to come in every month. Instead, on the other side, we build a system that puts in a certain type of effort to generate a certain type of output. And that's really what we want to do. Now, why do we want to do it? Well, because we want to solve the longevity problem and the continuity problem that I just mentioned a few minutes ago. If you are now going through a roller coaster, so starting a deal, closing a deal, waiting, and then starting a deal again, it is mandatory for us to make sure you make the most out of your time and you constantly have a new deal that you can act on. Not only to kind of queue deals up, so you close one, you start the next one immediately, and so on and so forth, but also to have options available in case something goes wrong with your current transactions, because shit happens all the time. And so we want to have a pipeline that grows over time, that compounds, that gives you options, and that ultimately enables you to pick from multiple qualified opportunities at any point in time. So if you're a private equity group, you're never going to face the issue of being at the end of the year with a lot of capital that hasn't been allocated and needing deal flow badly, and so starting to compromise on transactions just to get something on the books. Or if you're an investment banker, you're never going to face the issue of having to sign up new sales side clients because you're always going to have relationships that are building in the background. To the same degree, if you're a search fund, you're never going to have the issue of allocating 8 months towards a deal, seeing the deal collapse, and then starting all from scratch with a lot of pressure because your time window for closing a deal is coming to an end. So all these issues is what are the things that we're trying to address. And we want to go off market. We want to create a system that originates these deals. We want to understand that what we're going to get into our system as we originate deals is a different type of beast, if we want to say so, in terms of motivated seller, because we're not going to get people that have been sourced, packaged, and kind of like nurtured to a point where they're ready to pull the trigger on a transaction right away. Some of them might come into the funnel. That's excellent. That's awesome. But we're also going to get people that, again, might be in consideration phase, might be in the process of deciding about an exit, and they might be 2, 4, 6, 8 months away from actually pulling the trigger on a transaction. And they might not have all the documents that are needed. They might be in preparation phase. There are going to be a lot of different situations that come into play when we build a system that originates off-market deals. Now, that's not a challenge or it's not a problem necessarily. Most people see that as a problem. Instead, it's a huge opportunity because, again, most of your competitors are not going to be willing to do the work that is needed to take these deals and nurture them to the point that they become transactions. That's why they're going to lose deals. That's why they're going to lose money over time. And that's why you're going to make more, you're going to close more deals compared to them. And the reason why a lot of people don't focus on these off-market opportunities and they kind of like disqualify them as deals that are not ready, therefore not a fit for them, is because, again, they operate under this behavior that they only want to talk with people that are ready to transact right now. But the market is becoming so competitive that it's now increasingly difficult to get a deal across just by focusing on the tiny percentage that sits at the bottom of the funnel. And these deals are generally the ones that are hunted down by a lot more people. Competitive biddings are very, very high. And in most cases, all these deals are listed already. So what we're trying to do now is move above and go a little bit upwards into the funnel in the level of awareness and try to target motivated sellers that, again, are at different stages. Now, then it becomes a question of how do we create a system that predictably nurtures this relationship based on where this person is at in the decision-making process so that we can ultimately get them over the line when they're ready to pull the trigger. And that's one of the things that we do when we build systems for clients, by the way. We create that infrastructure so they don't have to worry about anything. They just set up the system that starts to build the momentum, and over time they start to see people coming in because they've been naturally nurtured and converted into sellers. Now, we want to, again, go off market, understand that we're going to address motivated sellers that are going to be at different stages. Plus, we want to create different funnels for these people and make sure we are talking to them in a different manner. Why is that? Well, because, again, if we approach deal flow and off-market deal flow the same way we approach on-market deal flow, we're going to get poor results, if not no result. And the reason is, again, because if we talk with somebody that is 6 months away from making a decision, the same way you talk with somebody that has already gone through a process with a broker for 12 months and he has now a SIM for a business, you're going to be dealing with people that have two different types of behavior, right? And again, approaching things in the same way is just destructive. Again, it sounds obvious, but I need to repeat that because a lot of investment professionals don't understand this. And then they come or they say off-market deals don't work. Well, in reality is their mentality doesn't work because they are looking at things with a very preconceived thought process, and they're not allowing any flexibility. Well, in reality, if you want to build a pipeline that has longevity, you need to have that level of flexibility because, again, you need to talk with people in different ways to make sure you meet them where they are. And if you are not willing to do that, then you're entitled and you deserve to lose deals. That's just the bottom line. So we're solving this issue of going off market, addressing that 80% of the market that your competitors are too lazy to address. We want to find motivated sellers that way. And we want to make sure we integrate it into your existing system so that your referrals can keep coming in. And at the same time, you have an infrastructure in the back end that feeds you these new off-market deals. Well, the way we do that is by creating a system that, first of all, understand what is the exact business owners that you're trying to connect with. Because as you go off market, of course, the amount of businesses that you're going to have the ability to reach is plenty. So we want to be very specific in the way we define the type of market that we're going after, so that we can make sure that if we put in a certain type of effort, the result that is going to come at the bottom is going to be exactly what we're looking for. So clarity around the type of asset that we want to go after is important. And of course, we need to have some flexibility around it, because data accessibility kind of like prevents us from knowing certain information immediately. I'm thinking, profitability level of kind of difficult to get from the get-go. They're difficult to collect in terms of information. But provided we understand some of these things and we create proxies around, let's say, company size, years in business, ownership structure, geography, and so forth, then we have a very restricted box of prospects that we know would be good fits for us, provided they're interested in selling. Now, it then goes down to the psychology aspect of the deal, which is, okay, now that we know the type of prospect that we're going after, how is it that we can communicate with them so that we have a higher chance of getting a response from everybody who's actually interested? And there are a lot of ways we can do that. We can segment by geography, by subsector, by revenue, by employee count, create relevancy by segmentation, or we can also create personalization by collecting the information of the company and ultimately crafting a message that resonates with that specific prospect alone. There are a lot of ways to skin the cat from that perspective. The point is, we want to create relevancy, because we're now in a world where, as I said, a lot of people are not willing to put in the effort to find these off-market deals, this 80% of the market that is untapped. But the few that are actually putting in the effort, they're kind of putting in a very sloppy effort, which means they're blasting everybody. They're trying to get through with a very generalized message. And as a consequence, the results they're getting are very poor, but they're also polluting the market, so to speak, with owners that are becoming more resistant to bad messages, bad ways of connecting. And as a consequence, we want to make sure we separate ourselves from these people, so that we actually get people to reply and get people to say, okay, I want to connect with this person. I want to connect with this investment firm. I want to connect with this advisor. I want to connect with these folks to ultimately have an interaction around the sale of the business. And this is part of an art, part of science, because again, you can create a lot of relevancy with the message, but again, you will not meet every single person at the exact stage they're at. That's simply impossible, which is why we will need to go through multiple cycles and connect with the market in multiple ways, through multiple channels, to ultimately figure out what is it that makes this person click. Now, any type of feedback in this testing phase is very, very useful, because it tells us first what resonates with part of the audience, what doesn't resonate with part of the audience, what is the part of the audience that is not interested at all, and then how can we go through these cycles over and over again, testing different ideas, and ultimately find people that are at these different stages that I just mentioned. So it's a iteration process that you go through that ultimately starts to collect different types of interest from different types of people. As I said, multiple messages, personalization, segmentation, and variations, and all these sorts of things, all these fancy words that, I mean, for a lot of you will not mean anything, but they're kind of like a way to build a system that ultimately works. What I would also say, just a few minutes, then there are a lot of videos around this topic. Multi-channel is the way, because again, if we're really trying to tap into that 80% of the market that you don't have access to, then we want to make sure we maximize our chances of success when it comes to connecting with a motivated seller. And the way we do that is by trying to connect with these people in multiple ways so that we can find where they're more likely to respond. Because human behavior is like, every single person is different. And some people might be very comfortable in having an interaction in a certain way, while others might be very turned off by it. So assuming that we're just going to do things one way because that's the way that works is just delusional, and it's not demonstrating a clear understanding of the market, right? So I'll just give you an example, a practical example. Let's say that you say, I want to source deals through cold calls. I'm just going to do cold calls. Well, somebody might never pick up the phone to you, but it might be a motivated seller. And maybe with an email, you could have got a reply from that person. But you're just trying to interact with him in a way that is not generating a response. Every single business should understand this. Is like, sometimes the issue is not what you're offering or the product that you're putting in front of people, is the way that you're packaging it, or the way you're communicating it, or the channel that you're using to communicate that kind of like prevents you from getting the results. So that is another important thing to understand. Now, as we get that initial inflow, as I said, people are going to come in at different stages, and that becomes an exercise of having these people bucketed in different categories or different lists, if we want to call them this way, and then create systems that communicate with them in the appropriate manner so that they mature over time into sellers. Ultimately, if that system is built correctly, you will have a process that runs in the background that you can ultimately oversee at a very high level, because it's not going to require a lot of intervention from your side, and it might require zero intervention if you have somebody like us run the system for you, for example. But what is going to enable you to have is, one, visibility on the market at all times. So know what's working, what's not working today, what's the interest level of that particular sector at any point in time, but also a consistent pipeline of deals with levels of readiness that are pre-funneled for you. And you can basically open up a dashboard fundamentally and see how people are moving across the funnel and down the funnel, I should say, to the point where they become ready to be sellers. So what I'm getting at is, as you can see, there's nothing that is affecting your current way of sourcing deals, because you're still going to be focusing on that bottom of the funnel, people that bring you deals. Basically, you're still going to rely on folks that bring you inbound requests. But that part of the funnel is left unchanged. What we're doing is building infrastructure on top of it so that you can address the large proportion of the marketplace that is not ready to act right now, but it might be within a given time period. Again, I always use the example of selling a house. If you look at a specific neighborhood and you say, okay, how many people are likely to be selling their house today in that specific neighborhood? Well, probably a very low percentage of them, right? But how many of these people are likely to be interested in selling their house within a 12-month period? Probably a significant percentage, and I would say a disproportionate percentage compared to the ones that are interested today. That's the same mentality that we want to use when looking at off-market deals. If you look at things in a vacuum, like I want deals now, certainly you're not going to get the outcomes that you seek. But if you look at this as a compounding process that constantly builds up momentum and makes people mature over time, then over a 3-month cycle, you're going to start to see great results coming in that will keep piling on and keep delivering results for you over time. And that's, again, it sounds kind of like counterintuitive for me to say this, because we're in the investment arena and a lot of people should be accustomed to long-term thinking and compounding results and all these sorts of things. But I still see so many people, including big firms, that don't think that way. They just want to close a deal today. They are under huge pressure and urgency, and therefore they make mistakes, and sometimes they compromise on deals simply because they don't have the access that they actually want. We fixed that, and You can fix that, by the way, by having this pipeline that, again, it's not easy to build. That's the whole point. That's why a lot of people in your industry are not building it, because it is just too easier to say, well, I rely on my network and the network is the best way to find deals. That's not the case, and it's a very limited way of looking at things. It might have been the way you've brought deals to the table in the past, but markets change and things are evolving. As things become more competitive, you need to have a system that gives you more control over, the process that you use to originate transactions, so that, again, you don't wake up every day hoping somebody else will bring you a deal, but you say, okay, what type of input can we produce that will generate a certain output for us over 3, 4, 5, 6 months? And that's what the off-market origination process really does. Is like, it's a way for you to kind of like future-proof your results, and like safeguard these results from market conditions, from changes, from unexpected kind of like events that happen. And it is a way for you to get more deal flow, close more transactions, make more money independently. If you're an advisor, investment professional, a search fund looking to close this next deal, it works for everybody, but it needs to be structured in a way that it can produce results over a certain time. It will be delusional for you to start to build something like this and then expect results in a month, because that's not how things are developed. If you're looking for deals that are ready to execute right now, chances are you're going to be disappointed by these things. You can still get opportunities that are ready right now, but they're not going to be the vast majority. And so also a mental shift is necessary, and a deeper understanding of the process. It's kind of like what we need to go through. It's like we need to look at it as is a sales funnel for a business. I mean, it's not. It might be too simplistic, because to some respects it is, but let's just look at it that way. So it's like, not all people are going to be ready to buy your thing the moment you first connect with them. If you're looking to buy a car, there are people that are ready to buy right now. They're going to buy the car. Some of them might be ready in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. How do we communicate with these people over that time horizon, so that when the decision comes, they buy our Jaguar instead of a Porsche, right? Because that's ultimately the issue. A lot of times people lose deals because, again, they connect with a seller. He seems to be interested. Then he says, his timeline is 6 months. They drop the deal completely, or they send a few follow-up emails that are just shitty, and then the guy signs up with somebody else. He was still interested, and it was a good deal. It's just that you didn't have the system in place to build that relationship and nurture it to the point where the guy was ultimately ready to take action. Off-market origination solves all these issues for you. So it's like, it addresses the part of the marketplace that you're not addressing. It creates a system that funnels people into different buckets depending on where they are in their decision-making process. It nurtures people through these phases, so that when they're ready to take action, they take action with you instead of somebody else. And it ultimately creates a compounding effect, a system that is consistent over time, that doesn't make you go through this roller coaster where you have one referral come in, the deal looks good, let's execute on that. Deal is executed, let's start waiting again. But you constantly have flow and interested people that you can bring across your pipeline. And again, this is what we do for a lot of people. We either source deals for them, so we run the entire system on their behalf, or we deploy our IP, our intellectual property, into their business. We build the infrastructure, show them how to run it, and then they use them to get the results they need, and they can deploy it over and over again over time and get disproportionate results out of it. So if that is something that resonates with you because you're looking for more deal flow, you want more opportunities, there's going to be a link below that you can click to book a time with our team, and maybe join the wait list for our bespoke support. This is in a nutshell how or you can tap into your next deal, access your next opportunity as fast as humanly possible, and ultimately address part of the marketplace that you are not addressing.